A casino surveillance expert just broke their silence about the secret systems used to identify players on winning streaks. What insiders are revealing about these 10 tracking methods will completely change how you think about casino loyalty programs. And the industry definitely doesn't want you knowing this. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how casinos monitor your every move and why that player's card you thought was giving you free stuff is actually their most powerful weapon against you. Let me break down the 10 ways they're watching you right now. You probably think your player's card is just a simple piece of plastic that tracks your points for free meals and hotel rooms. But according to surveillance experts who've worked in major Las Vegas properties, that card contains RFID technology that does way more than you realize. The moment you insert your card into any machine, the casino system creates what insiders call a digital shadow. This shadow follows you everywhere on the casino floor. Security managers report that the RFID chip in your card communicates with sensors embedded throughout the casino, tracking not just where you're playing, but where you're walking, how long you pause at certain machines, and even which games you look at but don't play. One pit boss from a major Atlantic City casino revealed that the system logs every single movement. If you walk from blackjack to the bathroom, they know. If you stop to watch someone else play slots for 3 minutes, they know. If you circle back to a machine you played earlier, they definitely know. But here's what makes this particularly creepy. The system isn't just tracking you in real time. It's building a behavioral profile that gets more sophisticated every single visit. Surveillance experts explain that the casino's algorithms analyze your movement patterns to predict your next move. They know if you're a slot player who occasionally tries table games, or a blackjack player who hits the slots when frustrated. There was a case involving a man who played regularly at a tribal casino in the Midwest. He had no idea that the casino had been tracking his walking patterns for over 2 years. The data showed that whenever he had a losing session at blackjack, he would walk to a specific bank of high-limit slots and make large bets out of frustration. Casino managers used this information to position hosts nearby during his losing streaks, ready to offer him comps and encouragement to keep playing those high-limit machines where he consistently lost even more money. Over the course of those 2 years, the casino estimated they'd profited an extra $78,000 from him just by understanding and exploiting this behavioral pattern. The man had no idea he was being tracked and manipulated so precisely. The RFID tracking extends beyond the gaming floor too. Some casino resorts have sensors in restaurants, shops, and even hotel hallways. They're building a complete picture of your entire visit, looking for patterns that indicate you're someone they can profit from long-term. You might have noticed cameras everywhere in casinos, but what you probably don't realize is that many major properties now use advanced facial recognition technology that catalogs every person who walks through the door. Surveillance directors from multiple Las Vegas casinos have confirmed that the moment you enter, cameras scan your face and run it against a massive database. If you've been to that casino before, the system recognizes you instantly, even if you don't use your player's card. If you're a first-time visitor, your face gets added to the database. But it's not just one casino tracking you. According to industry insiders, many casino companies share facial recognition databases with their other properties. If you visit a casino in Las Vegas, then travel to their sister property in another state months later, they know it's you before you even sit down at a machine. Security managers explain that the system flags certain players automatically. If you're someone who's been winning consistently, you get tagged in the database. Every time you return, floor managers receive an alert on their tablets showing your photo, your name if they have it, your playing history, and your lifetime win-loss record at their properties. One surveillance expert described a situation at a major casino where a professional poker player was winning consistently over several months. The facial recognition system flagged him, and management started having dealers shuffled more frequently at his tables and assign their best dealers to his games. They also had floor supervisors watch his play closely for any signs of card counting or collusion, even though he was playing poker where those things aren't really applicable. They were just looking for any excuse to limit his play because the system had identified him as a winner. But here's where it gets really invasive. Some casinos are now using emotion detection algorithms as part of their facial recognition systems. These programs analyze your facial expressions to determine your emotional state. Security experts report that the software can detect when you're excited, frustrated, angry, or showing signs of problem gambling behavior. If the system detects you're on tilt, meaning you're emotionally compromised and likely to make bad decisions, floor managers get an alert. They'll send a cocktail waitress over with free drinks, or a host might appear to chat with you and keep you engaged, all while you're in an emotional state where you're likely to bet more and make worse decisions. There was a documented incident at a casino in Reno where a woman was identified by the facial recognition system as someone who showed extreme frustration patterns after losses. Over the course of 8 months, hosts were instructed to approach her specifically during these frustrated periods. They'd offer her free meal comps, free show tickets, anything to keep her in the building and playing. The casino's data showed she would consistently rebuy for larger amounts when approached during these emotional moments. By the time she sought help for gambling addiction, she'd lost over $200,000, much of it during these emotionally vulnerable moments that the casino had learned to identify and exploit. Before I continue with method number 8, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt like a casino was watching you too closely. Now let's get back to the methods they're using. Every single bet you make is recorded and analyzed by sophisticated algorithms looking for patterns that indicate you're a skilled player or just getting lucky. Casino managers have revealed that the system tracks not just how much you're winning, but how you're winning. If you're playing blackjack and the system notices you're increasing your bets after the deck becomes favorable, red flags start appearing on floor managers' screens. If you're playing slots and you suddenly switch from betting small to betting max right before a bonus hits, the system notices. If you're playing craps and your betting patterns show any kind of consistency that suggests you understand the game at a professional level, you're getting flagged. Table games managers explain that the software running in modern casinos is incredibly sophisticated. It knows the mathematically optimal way to play every casino game. When your play deviates from what a casual player would do, the system scores you on a skill scale. The higher your skill score, the more attention you receive from management. One former casino manager described the system as having 3 levels of alerts. Level 1 is for players who are playing slightly better than average, but still making enough mistakes to be profitable for the casino. These players actually get encouraged because they think they're skilled, but they're still losing money over time. Level 2 is for players who are genuinely skilled and playing at a level where they might break even or win slightly over time. These players get watched closely, and management looks for any opportunity to limit their bet sizes or encourage them to play different games where they're less skilled. Level 3 is for players who are playing at a professional level and are consistently winning. These players get the full treatment. Bet limits get lowered specifically for them. Dealers get switched out frequently to slow down the game, and in some cases, they'll be politely asked to stop playing certain games entirely. A professional blackjack player from the East Coast reported that he was playing at a casino where he'd been winning modestly over several sessions. He wasn't counting cards or doing anything illegal, just playing very solid basic strategy and getting lucky. After his fourth winning session, a pit boss approached him and explained that he was no longer welcome to play blackjack at that casino, but he was welcome to play any other game. When he asked why, the pit boss said their system had flagged his play as too skilled and too lucky, and they were exercising their right to refuse his action at that game. The most insidious part is that the system also tracks how you react to wins and losses. If you're someone who presses your bets after wins, the system notes this and factors it into your profile. If you chase losses by betting bigger after losing streaks, you're identified as someone with exploitable behavior patterns, and floor managers will receive suggestions on how to keep you engaged during those chasing moments. You probably think your loyalty card just tracks how much you play, so the casino can give you appropriate comps. But managers have revealed that the software does something much more calculated. It predicts when you're about to stop playing and intervenes at exactly the right moment to keep you going. The algorithms analyze your playing sessions over time and identify patterns. They learn how long your typical session lasts, how much you usually lose before leaving, and what factors cause you to quit. Once the system understands your patterns, it can predict with scary accuracy when you're approaching your breaking point. Casino hosts explain that they receive alerts on their devices when the system predicts a profitable player is about to leave. The alert tells them exactly where the player is and suggests what type of comp might keep them playing longer. Sometimes it's a free buffet, sometimes it's free show tickets, sometimes it's just a friendly conversation and encouragement. One casino manager described how the system works with a specific example. A regular player had a pattern of playing slots for about 3 hours and typically losing around $800 before calling it quits. The system learned that at the 2.5-hour mark, especially if his losses were approaching that $800 threshold, he would start looking around and showing signs of preparing to leave. The algorithm would alert a host, who would then approach with a comp for a free steakhouse dinner scheduled for later that evening. This accomplished two things. It made the player feel appreciated and valued, and it locked him into staying at the casino for several more hours, during which he would almost certainly play more. The casino's data showed that when they intervened with comps at this predicted breaking point, the player would typically continue for another 2 hours and lose an additional $400 to $600. Without the intervention, he would have left. The $50 cost of the steak dinner generated an extra $500 in losses on average. That's a 10-to-1 return on investment for the casino. But the system is even more sophisticated than that. It also tracks what types of comps are most effective for each individual player. Some players respond better to food comps, others to show tickets, others to free hotel room upgrades. The algorithm tests different approaches and learns what works best for each person. There was a case involving a retired teacher who played regularly at a casino in Mississippi. She had a pattern of playing for about 4 hours every Friday afternoon. The casino system learned that she was a huge fan of country music. When the algorithm predicted she was approaching her stopping point, hosts would approach and mention that a country music act was performing in the lounge later that evening, and they'd love to comp her tickets. She would consistently stay several more hours, playing before and after the show, generating thousands in additional losses over the course of a year. The casino spent maybe $30 per week on show tickets and got back an estimated additional $300 to $400 per week in losses from her extended playtime. If you think you can escape a casino's attention by playing at different properties, you're wrong. Major casino companies have developed networks that share player information across all their locations, and according to insiders, they're now sharing data with competitors too. Casino executives have confirmed that companies like MGM, Caesars, and Boyd Gaming share their player databases with each other through third-party analytics companies. This means your playing history at one casino is potentially visible to other casinos you've never even visited. The stated purpose is to identify problem gamblers and advantage players to protect both the players and the casinos. But surveillance directors reveal that the real motivation is to identify profitable players and prevent skilled players from spreading their action across multiple properties to avoid detection. If you're winning consistently at blackjack in Las Vegas, then you travel to Atlantic City and sit down at a table. There's a good chance that casino already knows about your Vegas results. The facial recognition system identifies you, checks you against the shared database, and flags you before you've played a single hand. One professional gambler described his experience with this network. He'd been playing poker successfully at various Las Vegas casinos for several years. He decided to take a trip to Lake Tahoe to play at some casinos he'd never visited. Within an hour of sitting down at a poker table, a floor manager approached and asked to speak with him privately. The manager explained that their system had identified him as a professional player based on his history at Las Vegas properties, and while he was welcome to play, they would be monitoring his play closely, and they had the right to ask him to leave at any time if they felt his skill level was too high. He hadn't even won anything yet, but the network had already tagged him as someone to watch. The databases include more than just win-loss records. They track betting patterns, games played, time of day you typically play, whether you drink while playing, whether you play alone or with others, and countless other data points. Some analytics companies are even incorporating social media data into these profiles. If you post about casino wins on social media, that information can be matched to your player profile and used to build a more complete picture of your gambling behavior. Marketing managers admit that the goal is to create a 360-degree view of every player. They want to know everything about you so they can maximize the amount of money you'll spend in their casinos. If you're a winner, they want to limit your play or push you toward games where you're less skilled. If you're a consistent loser, they want to know exactly how to keep you playing longer and betting more. This is where things get really invasive. Some newer slot machines are equipped with sensors that can measure biometric data from players, and most people have no idea this technology exists. Gaming technology experts have revealed that certain slot machine manufacturers have developed seat sensors and hand sensors that can detect your heart rate, skin temperature, and even stress levels while you play. The stated purpose is to enhance the gaming experience and ensure player safety, but insiders say the real application is much more sinister. The sensors feed data into the casino's player tracking system, creating a real-time emotional profile. If your heart rate spikes when you trigger a bonus, the system notes this. If your skin temperature increases when you're betting larger amounts, this gets recorded. If the sensors detect signs of stress or anxiety, this information goes into your profile. Casino managers explain that this biometric data is incredibly valuable because it reveals your true emotional responses, which are often different from your observed behavior. You might look calm on the outside, but if the sensors detect elevated heart rate and stress indicators, the system knows you're emotionally invested in the outcome. The most disturbing application is that some casinos are experimenting with using this data to modify gameplay in real time. Gaming consultants have confirmed that some machines can adjust payout frequencies and sizes based on the player's emotional state. If the sensors detect you're frustrated and about to quit, the machine might trigger a small win to keep you engaged. If the sensors detect you're highly engaged and excited, the machine might extend the time between wins to maximize revenue from your engaged state. One slot technician described working on a bank of machines that had these sensors installed. The casino's analytics team ran a 6-month test where half the machines used the biometric feedback to adjust gameplay and half operated normally. The machines using biometric feedback generated 23% more revenue on average. Players on those machines played longer sessions and went through more money because the machines were dynamically adjusting the experience to keep them maximally engaged. There was a reported incident at a casino in Nevada where a player requested her data records under state law. When she received the records, she discovered that the casino had detailed logs of her estimated heart rate and stress levels for every session she'd played over a 2-year period. She had no idea this data was being collected. When she complained, the casino explained that by using her player's card on those machines, she'd agreed to data collection as outlined in the terms and conditions that nobody actually reads. Casinos have deployed artificial intelligence systems that analyze your playing style with incredible precision. These AI systems can identify advantaged players, detect betting patterns that indicate skill, and even predict which players are most likely to develop gambling problems that will eventually cause them to stop playing. Technology directors from major casinos have confirmed that their AI systems observe every aspect of your play. At table games, cameras with AI analysis watch how you handle your chips, how long you take to make decisions, how you react to wins and losses, and dozens of other micro-behaviors. At slot machines, the AI tracks your spin speed, how quickly you respond to wins, whether you play faster when winning or losing, and whether you take breaks or play continuously. The AI builds a psychological profile that predicts your future behavior with disturbing accuracy. Casino executives admit that the system can predict with roughly 80% accuracy whether a player will return for another session within the next week, whether they're approaching a point where they might self-exclude or seek gambling addiction help, and whether they're playing at a skill level that makes them unprofitable for the casino. One casino manager described how the AI flagged a craps player as a potential advantage player based purely on behavioral analysis. The player wasn't doing anything illegal, and his betting patterns looked fairly normal to human observers. But the AI detected that he was taking longer to place certain bets based on what numbers had been rolled recently, suggesting he might be tracking dice patterns or using a betting system that gave him a small edge. Floor managers were alerted, and they began watching his play more carefully. Eventually, they determined the AI was correct, and the player was using a sophisticated tracking system. His bet limits were reduced, effectively ending his advantage. The AI also identifies players who are spiraling into problem gambling. The system can detect increasing bet sizes, longer playing sessions, faster play speeds, and other indicators that someone is losing control. But here's the ugly truth that insiders have revealed. Instead of intervening to help these players, many casinos use this information to maximize revenue before the player inevitably crashes and stops playing entirely. Marketing managers explain that when the AI identifies someone in a gambling spiral, that player gets moved into a special category. They receive more comps, more attention from hosts, and more targeted marketing. The goal is to keep them playing as long as possible before they hit rock bottom and either seek help or run out of money entirely. A surveillance expert described a case where the AI flagged a middle-aged man as showing all the signs of severe gambling addiction. His playing sessions had increased from 2 hours to 8 hours over 6 months. His bet sizes had tripled, and he was playing much faster, barely pausing between spins. Instead of offering help, the casino's marketing department sent him increasingly generous offers, including free room upgrades and show tickets. Over the next 4 months, he lost over $150,000 before finally seeking help and self-excluding. The casino had identified his problem early, but chose to profit from it rather than intervene. You probably know that casinos use RFID chips at high-limit tables to prevent counterfeiting, but what you might not know is that these chips allow casinos to track every single bet you make with precision that would shock most players. Gaming managers have confirmed that RFID chips communicate with sensors built into the table. Every time you place a bet, the system records the exact amount, the exact position on the table, and the outcome. This data gets linked to your player profile if you're using a player's card, or to your facial recognition profile if you're not. The system builds a complete record of your betting patterns over time. It knows if you're a conservative player who sticks to low-risk bets, or an aggressive player who makes high-variance wagers. It knows if you press your bets after wins, if you chase losses, if you change your betting patterns based on who's dealing, and thousands of other data points. Table games directors explain that this information is used to optimize the casino's advantage. If you're a skilled blackjack player who's winning consistently, the system might recommend dealing fewer hands per hour at your table by having the dealer shuffle more frequently. If you're a roulette player who makes a lot of risky bets, the system might suggest that hosts offer you comps to keep you playing longer because your betting style means you'll eventually lose despite any short-term wins. But here's what makes this particularly invasive. The RFID tracking allows casinos to conduct detailed analysis of your decision-making patterns. Some systems can identify if you play better or worse at certain times of day, if your play deteriorates after drinking alcohol, if you make different decisions based on whether you're winning or losing, and if you play differently when you're alone versus with friends. One pit boss described how they used RFID data to identify a blackjack player's weakness. The player was generally skilled and was slightly ahead over a dozen sessions, but the data showed that when he was up significantly for the session, he started making riskier plays and deviating from basic strategy. He would split hands he shouldn't split and double down in marginal situations. The casino started watching for this pattern, and when they noticed him getting ahead during a session, they would subtly encourage his riskier instincts by having dealers be more conversational and offering free drinks. His play would deteriorate, and he would usually give back his winnings plus more. The RFID tracking also enables casinos to compare players against each other in real time. If you're playing blackjack at the same table as someone else, the system is comparing your playing styles, decision-making speed, bet sizing, and results. It's building comparative profiles to understand what types of players are most profitable and what characteristics identify players who need to be limited. If you've downloaded your casino's mobile app for easy reservations or checking your player points, you've potentially given them access to way more information than you realize. Privacy experts who've analyzed casino apps have found that many of them request permissions that go far beyond what's necessary for their stated functions. Some casino apps request access to your location data, not just when you're using the app, but continuously in the background. They request access to your contacts, your photos, your browsing history, and in some cases, even your microphone and camera. Technology security analysts have confirmed that some casino apps are collecting this data and using it to build more detailed player profiles. The location tracking allows casinos to know when you're physically near their property or a competitor's property. Marketing managers admit that they use this data to send targeted promotions when you're nearby. If the app detects you're at a competitor's casino, they might send you a special offer to try to lure you to their property instead. If you're near their casino but haven't visited in a while, they might send you a promotion to encourage you to stop in. But the data collection goes deeper than that. Some apps analyze your browsing history and social media activity to understand your interests and lifestyle. If you're browsing luxury goods websites, the casino might target you with promotions for their high-limit rooms. If your social media shows you're a sports fan, they might target you with sports betting promotions or invitations to watch games in their sportsbook. One digital marketing consultant who works with casinos described how they use mobile app data to identify life events that might make someone more susceptible to gambling. If your social media indicates you just got divorced, lost a job, or experienced some other stressful life event, you might receive more targeted promotions because analytics suggest you're more likely to use gambling as an escape during these times. The apps also track how you interact with them. If you open the app frequently to check your rewards points, the system interprets this as high engagement and you'll receive more promotions. If you browse specific games in the app, you'll receive promotions for those games when you visit the casino. If you use the app to make restaurant or show reservations, this information gets factored into your profile to understand what types of non-gaming amenities appeal to you. There was a documented case where a man downloaded a casino's app to book a hotel room. He granted the standard permissions without reading them carefully. Over the next 6 months, he noticed he was receiving eerily targeted promotions from the casino. Offers for specific slot machines that matched his playing style, promotions for restaurants he'd browsed on food apps, and special events that matched his interests. When he investigated, he discovered the casino app had been collecting data from his phone and using it for marketing purposes. He had unknowingly given them permission in the app's terms of service. The #1 method casinos use to track lucky players is also the most sophisticated and potentially the most harmful. Every major casino operates a predictive player value algorithm that calculates your lifetime worth to the casino and uses that number to determine exactly how they'll treat you. The algorithm takes every piece of data we've discussed, plus hundreds of additional data points, and produces a score called your lifetime theoretical value. This number represents how much the casino expects to profit from you over the entire course of your relationship with them. Casino executives have explained that this algorithm is the heart of their player development strategy. It doesn't just look at how much you've lost so far. It predicts how much you'll lose in the future based on your behavioral patterns, your response to marketing, your playing style, your emotional triggers, and your estimated financial resources. Players are divided into tiers based on this lifetime theoretical value. If the algorithm calculates you're worth $50,000 in lifetime losses, you get treated one way. If it calculates you're worth $500,000 in lifetime losses, you get treated very differently. The highest value players identified by the algorithm receive intensive attention from dedicated hosts, lavish comps, and carefully orchestrated experiences designed to keep them gambling for years or even decades. But here's the most disturbing part that insiders have revealed. The algorithm also calculates a timeline. It estimates how long you'll remain a profitable customer before you either run out of money, develop such severe gambling problems that you self-exclude, or simply get tired of losing and stop playing. Once the algorithm predicts you're approaching the end of your profitable period, the casino ramps up their efforts to extract as much money as possible in your remaining time as a customer. Casino hosts have described receiving alerts from the system indicating that a player is in their final profitable phase. This triggers a protocol where the player receives maximum attention and comps. The goal is to keep them playing as intensively as possible before they inevitably crash out. It's a calculated extraction of every last dollar. One former host described the case of a professional woman who had been a regular player for nearly 3 years. The algorithm predicted, based on her decreasing play frequency and her inquiries about setting loss limits, that she was approaching the end of her gambling cycle. Over her final 6 months, she received more comps and attention than she'd received in the previous 2.5 years combined. The casino was systematically maximizing revenue from her before she stopped playing. She ultimately lost an additional $89,000 during those 6 months before finally seeking help for gambling addiction and self-excluding. The algorithm is so sophisticated that it can even predict which players are most likely to become problem gamblers who will remain profitable for extended periods despite their addiction. These players get flagged as high lifetime value and receive treatment designed to encourage long-term play. Marketing experts admit that the system identifies vulnerable players and exploits that vulnerability systematically. Everything in a casino is designed to track you, analyze you, and predict your behavior so they can maximize their profits. From the RFID chips in your player's card to the AI watching your every move, from the apps on your phone to the sensors in the slot machine seats, you're being monitored in ways that most players never imagine. The best protection is awareness. Now you know what they're doing. Set strict limits, take regular breaks, and remember that every free comp and every friendly gesture from what almost is calculated to extract more money from you. The algorithms are always running, always watching, and always optimizing to take your money as efficiently as possible. Don't let them. Subscribe for more insider casino secrets they don't want you to know, and share this video with anyone who needs to understand what's really happening on the casino floor.